And we are back with you. We're talking workers' comp and employment rights. We have Gabe Snyder from Ward Black Law, Nicole Patino from Nicole Patino Law Offices. All right, so Gabe, let's talk about this. What is a disability rating and why should anybody care about it?
Yeah, that's a good one. So when you get a disability rating, that means that you have completed your treatment and the doctor's saying, look, you're not as good as you were, but you're as good as you're going to get in relation to this body part. And I'm going to assign a disability rating. Usually, after surgery, it can be 15, 20%, usually has something to do with the loss of use to that body part. And so a disability rating is key if you're going to settle for permanent partial disability, which is, as arcane as it sounds, there's a statute that has the different body parts and the weeks. You multiply the percentage times the amount of weeks for the body parts. So for a back, it's 300 times your compensation rate, and voila, there's your PPD rating. It's important to know that you can get a second opinion and that your employer is supposed to pay for that. So an attorney will know maybe the best doctor to send you to
Okay.
To get that higher rating, maybe more patient advocate doctors. But yeah, so that's what that is.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We like the information. Nicole, this person is asking, what proof do you need to prove a hostile work environment?
Well, that depends. So hostile work environment has to be based on something else that's unlawful. So if it's a hostile work environment based on disability discrimination or sex discrimination or race discrimination, you want evidence of the things that are going on that are creating that hostile work environment. So I think a good way to just figure out what you might need is to call an attorney and say, here's what I'm experiencing, and they'll let you know if it is something that's protected under law or if it isn't. Because in North Carolina, we're an at-will employment state. And I tell people a lot of times, your boss can be mean, your boss can be terrible, but they can't engage in unlawful behavior. So it may help to discuss that with an attorney and determine what exactly is going on in your work environment and if it is truly a hostile work environment under the law.
Okay, I want you to think about that for a minute because I want you to give me an example of like what's mean versus what crosses the line.
Okay.
Okay, you think about that unless you already have that answer.
Yeah, I can tell you. So there was a situation, hypothetically, in which a supervisor was calling an employee something like fatty. Okay, she wasn't fat. He was just calling her kind of a mean nickname. That is not protected under the law because that's all he was doing. If this supervisor made another comment and said, I'm sick of all the estrogen in this building, that could be and that could create an unlawful or hostile work environment based on sex.
I see. Okay. All right. That's a good line there of what that is. All right. So there's a question here about workers' comp and retirement, Gabe. This person says, can you retire while you're out on workers' comp? Do you have to come back in to work for a couple of days and then retire?
Yeah, it's a complicated question. So usually what will happen is if you get injured, you're out for an extended period of time, but you're at the age where we're going to retire anyway. Technically, the rule is if you're out of work as a result of your disability and you keep that disability, they'll continue it up to 10 years regardless of your age. So maybe keep quiet about the fact that you want to be retiring.
Okay.
But if you're talking about, it depends on the scenario of when that occurs. So if they're talking about how they but no, that going back to work to do that's not a solution, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
I'd have to know a little bit more. That's a great question. Hopefully I gave that person a little something there.
But that's a good toe in the water kind of thing of figuring out some of those things and some questions that they need to ask.
Yeah, I'd tell that person to schedule a consult. That sounds like an important thing you want to get ironed out, and the details are going to make a big difference.
Okay, and again, free consultations there, so take them up on it.
That's right.
All right, Nicole, this person says, can an employer fire you immediately after you give them a 10-day notice?
They can accept your resignation immediately, yes.
So what does that mean?
They're not required to allow you to work out your notice.
Okay, so you may have said, I'm going to work the next 10 days, and they're like, yeah, no, we're done with you now.
Unless you have a term contract, but yes.
Okay, which means that then you would be out those 10 days of pay, but you don't get that option. The employer gets the option.
Yes.
Okay, this is good to know. All right.